You have probably heard this numerous times. If you invest around 20,000 a month for 15 years at 12% returns, you are told you'll end up with 1 crore rupees. Sounds great. But here's the thing. How sure are you about that 12%? Even a 1 to 2% drop in returns can shrink your final corpus by lakhs. For instance, if your returns are 9.7% instead of 12, the shortfall will not be a few thousand rupees, it could be over 10 lakh rupees. 12% is a nice round number. Most calculators use it by default. But your portfolio is not one stock or one fund. It's a mix of equity, debt, maybe gold. So blindly assuming a 12% return does not make sense. So what do you do instead? You calculate a more realistic return for your entire portfolio. That's where something called weighted average return comes in. Hello and welcome to our channel 5-Minute Finance by ET Money, where we discuss the basics of investing and personal finance. In today's video, we'll discuss how to calculate weighted average portfolio return, how to use that to decide your SIP, and how wrong assumptions can lead to serious financial shortfalls. So weighted average return is just an average, but here each asset's return is counted based on how much space it takes in your portfolio. If your portfolio has a mix of equity, debt and gold, each will give a different return. Your overall return will depend on all of them, not just one. Let's break this down with a simple example. Say your portfolio looks like this: 60% equity, where expected return is 12%, 30% debt with expected return 6%, and 10% gold, expected return 7%. Now to calculate it, just multiply the weight of each asset by its expected return. So for equity, it becomes 7.2%. This means 7.2% contribution to overall portfolio return. For debt, it comes out to be 1.8%, for gold 0.7%. Now add it up, and your overall portfolio return becomes 9.7%. That's your actual expected return, not 12%. Now let's see what happens when your SIP is based on an unrealistic return. Now let's go back to the 1 crore goal you want to reach in 15 years. At 12% return, you'll need to invest around 21,000 a month. But if your actual portfolio return is closer to 9.5%, you would need to invest 25,800 every month to reach the same goal. That's 4,800 more every single month. Now imagine finding this out at the last minute. You would either have to take a loan, break another investment, or compromise on your goal. So yes, assuming 12% when your portfolio isn't built for it. That's not a small mistake, it's a major planning gap. And well, in case life throws you a surprise while you are working towards that 1 crore goal, there's a way to manage without breaking your investments. With loans against mutual funds on the ET Money app, you can get instant cash while staying invested. The interest rate is just 10.75% per annum. There are no fixed EMIs, just pay interest monthly and repay the principal whenever it works for you. The best part, no CIBIL score required. Plus, for the next 3 months, any withdrawal you make will come at a special rate of 9.99% per annum. So check your eligible limit on the ET Money app and stay on course with your goals. Alright, coming back. Now let's look at what happens to your portfolio returns if your asset allocation changes over the years. So your portfolio won't stay the same for 15 years. You might start aggressive, then shift towards safety over time. But how does that affect your SIP? Let's say you start out with a pretty aggressive mix: 80% equity, 15% debt and 5% gold. Then halfway through, you reduce your risk and shift to 60% equity, 30% debt and 10% gold. Now towards the end, you go even more conservative: 40% equity, 45% debt and 15% gold. Lower equity means lower return potential, so you'll need to invest more to reach that same 1 crore goal. Going from 80% equity to 40% increases your monthly SIP amount by 7,000 rupees. And if you had wrongly assumed a 12% return, but your actual return turned out to be lower, you would fall short by 10 to 12 lakh over 15 years. So how do you avoid this shortfall? That's what we'll cover next. Alright, let's put it all together. Here's how to calculate your portfolio's expected return the right way in 5 simple steps. Step 1. Define your goal. What's the amount you need and by when? Let's say it's 1 crore corpus in 15 years. That's your target. Step 2. Check your current asset allocation. Look at where your money is currently invested. Say you have put 10 lakh so far, 6 lakh in equities, 3 lakh in debt and 1 lakh in gold. That's a 60s to 30s to 10 allocation. Step 3. Estimate a realistic return using weighted average. Now that you know how your money is split, assign expected returns to each. Say 10 to 12% for equity, 5 to 6% for debt and 6 to 7% for gold. Now calculate the weighted return based on how much of your portfolio each one takes up. Take a look at the table on your screen. Based on the calculation, your total estimated return is 7.2% from equity, 1.8% from debt and 0.7% gold. That becomes 9.7%. Now that's the number you should now use to plan your SIPs. Step 4. Use this return in SIP calculator. So plug 9.7% into the SIP calculator instead of 12. So to reach 1 crore, you need to invest 25,800 per month, not 21,000. Now based on your portfolio split, your SIP target allocation will look something like this. 15,480 in equity, that's 60%. 30% in debt, that's 7,740. 2,580 in gold, that's 10%. Now your SIP is actually aligned with your portfolio. Step 5. Rebalance. When you invest for long term, your portfolio drifts from the original allocation as returns come in. Here's how. Let's break it down with an example. So let's say you invested 10 lakh like shown in the table on your screen. Now fast forward 1 year. Equity returns are 25%, debt 6% and gold 8%. On your screen is how your portfolio looks now. See what happened. Your equity has grown beyond the original 60% allocation. You are now taking on more equity risk than you originally planned for. So what should you do? Rebalance your portfolio. Sell some equity, add to debt and gold to go back to your 60s to 30s to 10 target. Here's what your ideal target looks like on 11.76 lakh. Rebalancing keeps your risk in check and protects your plan during market crashes. That's why it's good to review your portfolio every 6 to 12 months. So to sum up, if your SIP is based on an unrealistic return like 12%, but your real portfolio delivers 9.7%, you'll fall short. So always know your asset mix, calculate the realistic return and plug that into your SIP plan.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.